From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hey there. Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I'm Mike Maxson. That's Brandon Gray.
Hey.
And we're back. Hey, good football weekend, man.
Man, yeah.
Alabama wins. My Cowboys win.
The Brooks Lions won.
Oh, there we go.
You know, I've got a couple weeks now with Bama wins, high school wins. You know, I had the Vanderbilt Commodores roll into town, a nationally ranked team, which sounds odd, but they're legit. We took care of business. And, you know, today's a cool day at the office, so we're wearing our college gear today for our lunch and learn. So got on repping the Crimson Tide. Headed over to
and
Arkansas.
So that's good.
Yeah, I'm headed to Fayetteville, Arkansas this week. And, you know, they've got an open position over there for their head coach. And I'm thinking about just swinging by and talking to the AD. You know, I mean.
Do it.
I tell him that I'm co-host of the Profitability Podcast. It's probably a done deal.
I mean, when's the last time they won a national championship?
Probably the 60s. That's my guess.
Okay,
you know,
so you getting that job can't hurt anything.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So,
no.
We'll see.
All right, well, we're continuing our football theme. That's why we just jumped right into that. So we've done offense, right? Being aggressive when things are going good for you. We've done some defense when things are a little bit tough. So now we're going to do some special teams. And great question, Brandon. I'm glad you asked why we're doing special teams. And what the heck is he talking about special teams in business? Well, this is all those little things that you got going on in your business, right? Like how you might invoice, how you might track some data, how might one of your processes be. These are all these little things that allow you to play good offense and real effective defense.
Right.
And so we're going to get into that today and talk about those. So Brandon, let's talk about things though that can help with both. And I know for everyone here, you could easily say that like, well, everything's going to help with both, Mike. I get that. But we're not going to talk about office pizza parties or anything like that. These are actually effective things that whether you need to play offense or defense, you should be doing anyway all the time. But given the current climate, it's always important to check to say, hey, maybe if I'm doing some of those little things right, those forgotten things that when it comes to find out, you will be making a huge impact in the business. So, Brandon, kick us off, my man. What do you want to start with?
You can't start a podcast like this with a couple of sayings, right? So one, as Mike mentioned, that we love is small things, all things. And when you relate it to special teams, as the old coaches would say, they're called special teams because they're special for a reason. And you know, like Mike mentioned, these are the little things that maybe don't get celebrated, but make a big difference. You know, everybody loves to celebrate, give high fives whenever we're talking about landing a big sale. And that's cool and it's great. But who's celebrating and giving high fives whenever they look at their prospect list and that list is beyond target? Or when they look at, you know, inbound requests or calls or appointments or lunches or some of those small, intricate things that lead to the big thing, and celebrate those kind of wins. And so I'm going to pick out a couple and kind of use that analogy of how special teams can change a football game and how special teams can change your business. So when you think about special teams, one of the things that can happen, and we're talking for those who aren't football fans, things like the kicking game. So, you know, punts, field goals, kickoff return. You take a great punt in a football game, and it can change the field position substantially. And you go, well, why does that matter with field position? Well, that then dictates, you know, the type of defense that you're going to play, what the offense may be doing. If you get a great punt return, it sets you up into call different plays and maybe be even in scoring position as far as that part goes. So as we kind of relate that to some systems and processes inside your business, one of them that's pretty simple, how frequently do you invoice? as you talk about cash flow, and folks are sometimes looking at it and going, man, we're selling the devil out of things, but we don't have any cash. Well, are you invoicing once a month? Do you have to invoice once a month? Can you invoice weekly? Can you invoice bi-weekly? And there's cases to where, you got to hit milestones or complete contracts or those kind of things. But, we like those businesses that have a low to negative trade capital signature. And we'll use one that we've talked about many times before, home services. They get paid before they leave the home at providing the service. So, their cash flow signature is going to look great. Another example would be, okay, how quickly do you onboard new customers or clients? And this is one that we saw in our business, Mike, last year, to where, we mapped out everything for a plan for 2025. And I'm like, man, we seem to be behind. What's going on? So we looked at how long it was taking us to onboard a new client. And we were several weeks past what the target should be. Well, we don't bill till we onboard. So, we got to speed that one up. It's a small thing, but it made a big difference whenever it comes to cash flow. Sometimes you got to change some operational processes or systems. I many times hear clients, they'll say, hey, we can't send an invoice because we don't have the information from our team on what's been completed, or if it's an expense reimbursement of some kind for costs that are passing through the business, we don't have that information. It's like, well, you got to change some systems and processes here. So small thing, but makes a really big difference as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think that invoicing speed might be one of the, now again, depending on your industry and how it all happens, but I had a client that had a large bucket of clients that they had to invoice every month, and they invoiced everybody at one time, and that was great. But the problem is all those people, took a while to, 30 days, post a check gets mailed, then it gets there, then you cash it. It's all this stuff. And that's if they pay in exactly 30 days. So what they did was they sort of split the clients up and then just said, hey, we're going to invoice every 2 weeks, this bucket of clients, and then this bucket. And then everyone that began to come on board began on a new cycle of that invoicing. So all the new clients came in then at one of those intervals. And now there's just a constant stream of invoicing and money, invoicing and money, invoicing and money. Completely changed the cash flow signature of the business. And doing that. The next thing real quick, Brandon, I'm going to piggyback on that is not only the invoicing, but then collecting it. And so it was years ago, Brandon, and I'm going to use a Crabtree Rowan Burger.
All right. Turn back the calendar.
Reference. But once upon a time, we and this is when I started. Brandon had hair. It was crazy. We invoice. We were invoicing and we're fine with paper checks and stuff like that. Just fine. Just send the invoice, and then whenever the paper check got here, well, all of a sudden it was like, hey, we're going to put credit card forms out here, or the option to pay ACH, all this stuff. Next thing you know, everyone signed up for it. Next thing you know, the moment their recurring invoice hit, or the moment it was issued, we made them had them sign a document. Boom, money was in the bank. Instant. Next thing you know, collections is right there. So Brandon, maybe you want to say something about collections. I went right to the next thing. Made sense, right?
Yeah, let's talk collections. Then I want to talk a little bit about lead flow and what have you, just to kind of set the table. So when we're meeting with our clients every month or every quarter, we're going to look at day sales outstanding. And where is that trend running? And I can tell you about 99% of the time when we see that number move, we get the exact same answer. Yeah, we've been noticing that. And what we've realized is that some members of our team that are maybe responsible for it, they're just not working it like they should. It's not that they can't. It's not that there's a system and process. We're just not following the play. And because let's face it, most people do not enjoy collections. There might be a few folks out here listening that enjoy it, and perhaps they use, different methods. They may be putting folks in trunks and breaking knuckles. I don't know. But most folks don't enjoy collections. And so you don't work on it. And it's just as important as anything else in the business. And so make sure that we're holding our team accountable to that system and that process, because it's there. You just got to run it. Oh,
I like it.
shifting gears here. So another one that kind of relates, we like to celebrate the win, right? We like to celebrate the touchdown, whether it's a big sale or a contract or what have you. This is super critical in the current marketplace. You have to make sure you're executing on the small things when it comes to lead flow and days to close. And a lot of times those aren't celebrated. They're not really talked about. Once again, we're looking at the outcome instead of the input, and success lies in mastering the inputs. But if you're not holding your team accountable to whatever your standard is around outbound activity, it could be calls, could be in-person meetings. I'm not going to put emails in there because they're not as effective. But some type of contact with prospects from an outbound perspective. If you're not holding your team accountable to that, then it's pretty hard to ask questions whenever sales aren't where they should be, because we just didn't do the work. The other one's days to close. How long on average is it taking you to close? Can we speed that process up? So if I've got the right number of prospects in my pipeline, I focus on the blockers and the things that are preventing us from closing very quickly. Obviously, we're going to see the revenue show up. Everybody's going to celebrate. So take that process, look at the different steps, and you can't put it on autopilot because the market changes. Make sure you're paying attention to it and adjusting as you need to. Mike, you want to talk specialist? We want to talk kickers and punters?
And, specialists are like people like me, everybody, that do business consulting maybe for you, or yeah. And that's what my mom's always told me, man, leave me alone. Maybe you have, a business coach. Maybe you have just that person in this obscure role, jack of all trades, master of none. That person you can count on to get a lot of stuff done. Or just maybe that strategic piece that you need to grow the business or fix the business. So those are your specialists. So, Brandon, what do you want to start off with? That comes to mind first.
When you think about on the football field, the specialist on special teams, that would be folks like the long snapper, the punter, the kicker. They've got one job to do. They don't play every down, but they're expected to show up and execute at a high level when the game is on the line. And so as you kind of relate that to your team, who are the folks who have special talents on your team, and how can we make sure we're using those? I've heard it many times to where a company gets ready to launch a new service or product or move into a new market, and you find out someone who maybe was part of their operations team actually has a really strong skill set in working on what you're moving and starting to do. And so you kind of can go, hey, I know you've been doing this. I want you to come over here and do this. Turn them into a specialist. See that very frequently. Another one is outside of your company. So we talked a few episodes ago about subject matter experts. They fall under that specialist umbrella. And so it's that person who has one job to do. Think of them, like the place kicker. You're only asking them to do one thing. They don't come in all the time. They're not part of the team all the time, but you've got a very specific need. You need them to come in, take care of the need, then go back over to the sideline. And so finding the very best in that field. And this is one of those things, we talk about our mastermind group, Mike. This is one of those that many times in mastermind we hear talk about. It might be a sales specialist, yes, marketing specialist, operations specialist, business coach, attorney. Could be many different people who might fill those roles. But, I'll give you one with an attorney at our last mastermind. And so there was a client there who had a very specific legal need. And we were able to connect him with someone else in the group who also had the very same legal need. And, this guy had already found one of the top attorneys in the country to deal with it. So finding those specialists, having them come in, do their job, go back to the sideline. You need a network. You need a group. Don't rely just on Google. Reach out to other folks in your network. Who are they using? Who would they recommend?
Yeah, I like that. And also too is you do have those people for sure. But I also want to talk about too those specialists within an organization that doesn't always get the recognition as the number one wide receiver on a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that player, that team member that maybe isn't the one that generates all the money. maybe isn't the one, but that person that gets it all done all the time, that you can't live without. And Brandon, I don't know how many times we turn to a business owner and, they'll sit back and you're waiting for them to talk about their highest producer, the one with the revenue. And then they talk about their admin. And they're like, hey, if that person ain't here, I don't know if I'd be able to function in my job.
Right.
And to me, there's that type of specialist too, that exists within an organization, that exists behind the scenes, not the highest producer, but they're there to get it done for you, and everything actually moves because of them.
Yeah.
And that also comes to my mind too.
Yeah, it's folks that do their job. And you might have productive team members as well that maybe aren't always in the limelight per se, bringing in the next big deal or hitting a sales target or something like that, or a great new idea. But they show up every day. They do their job. They're very efficient at what they do. If you can track individual LER in your company, these are the folks who are at the highest. And so, as you kind of look at what we need to do, we need to make sure we keep them. We need to retain them. We need to show them some love. We need to have them help other folks who may not be performing at the same level get to that level of performance. And it's easy to take them for granted sometimes. But they're the folks who kind of make it all happen. And so one exercise that I really like is, as you kind of look through your team, how efficiently and how smoothly would you operate if you did not have that person on your team? And I think every business probably can point to 2 or 3 people kind of behind the scenes. And it's like, hey, we got to have those folks without a doubt. So take a few minutes and recognize them and try to duplicate them. Look at their personality and traits. And as you look to hire and fill more roles, how to get more people that are like this.
That's got one more. Brandon's made it all these years. I've just carried him.
What's that? I was talking at the same. Did he say he carried me all these years?
Yes, that's what I did. Yeah, that's why I have to lift all these weights.
Mike's feisty this morning. He's stretching for a few. I'm going to have to pat him on the back a little bit more. So here's the last thing I want to talk about. So game-changing opportunities. So special teams can change a game. It can be a blocked punt. It can be a blocked field goal. It can be a big punt return, a big kick return. Many, many things that can happen on special teams. And it's a momentum change. It gets the juices going. People get excited about it. And so what are the things that you're planning inside your business that are going to be those big special teams plays? And it could be, hey, we're releasing a new service offering or a new product. We're expanding and growing into a new market area. We have found a new base of prospects, customers that we haven't tapped in before. It could be a marketing initiative. I mean, we're hiring or we're adding robots to the fleet. I mean, there could be a lot of different things that could be that momentum shift and change. And once again, we're in a marketplace where there's not a current playbook. And a lot of times we'll say this to our clients: you just need to get a win. If you've been kind of bumping along and there's been months of losses and marginal profitability, and it's kind of like, man, you're fighting and you're scrapping for every inch to survive as a business. Sometimes emotionally and mentally, you just got to get a win. Your team needs a win. And so what are the things that you can do that are going to kind of shift and change that momentum? And most of the time they don't come by chance. You've got to prepare. You've got to do your homework. You've got to decide what market you're going to go into, or you got to decide if you're going to roll out a new service or product or whatever it may be. But we talked a little bit about this in playing offense and reinvesting back into your business. You got to gain some momentum. So Mike, what are your thoughts on gaining momentum inside business?
Yeah. I mean, I think the companies that win are always looking for that game-changing opportunity. I've seen a lot of business over the years that, while it is fine to like, hey, I'm keeping it moving, you seem the ones that really take off for growth have those moments. Rarely is it just, oh, hey, it's all going good and I just keep making money. No, there's usually some impact event that gives them that next leg up, that strategic partnership, that maybe investing in a team player that they never thought they would, like maybe that high price salesperson. That's a low hanging fruit one, but maybe they started that new location that they always wanted to do. It's something like that that allows them to take off. It's rarely to someone just, oh, hey, we're just doing it. It's that push for us over the years. At Simple Numbers here, it's been expanding out into group activity and into group work and more dynamic projects that we had to do, where once upon a time we would just do planning sessions. Now it's, hey, now we're actively being more involved in CEO groups, large group data analysis, and work with business owners and mastermind groups. So everyone does it, and I highly recommend for those game-changing plays to look into things. Always be looking for things like that.
Yeah, I'll give you a few examples that I've seen. So a few years ago, we had a client that was in the home medical industry, and that industry had it had been beaten up by some changes in the Medicare reimbursements, and they had limped along for a couple of years, and a new product came out in the CPAP world that was slightly different than what they'd been doing in the past. They didn't have to really change their personnel. They didn't have to change their operations or systems. It was more or less inserting a new product that had a lot of potential into it. And bam, they had a several year run to where it gave juice to the team. Everybody was excited about it. It was a great product for patients to use. And it really kind of changed both the revenue and the profit of the company. Another one is we work with some companies that are in the recycling business. And, we've seen both of those over the last few years add equipment for their processing. And once again, it can change some things, but it brings a lot of excitement to the company. Phenomenal opportunity to increase margins in what they're doing. The team gets a new toy, you might say, to play with, and it benefits bottom line substantially. Now it's a big investment, but it's one of those kind of game changers that can position them for much better and more profitable things. We've seen clients that, from a marketing perspective, have had game changers, whether it's a campaign or an outcome. So years ago, you got to go back a few years with this one. I had a client that was experimenting with YouTube ads. And this was right when it first started.
Whoa.
And they were in the medical products industry. And the timing was phenomenal, because they started experimenting with it at the end of 2019 and the first month or two of 2020. And they kind of had figured it out. So in Q1 of 2020, they put on the gas. They started really investing heavily in YouTube ads. And then we all know what happened in March of 2020. Everyone's at home watching YouTube and needs healthcare products. So, it was rocket fuel for them. So those are just a few examples of things that you can kind of look at, but, look for that game-changing opportunity. I think that's the big thing there. You want to find something that's going to be a spark to kind of get you out of the rut and move you forward.
Sweet. I couldn't agree more. And that, I think we've covered the special teams. Before we close out our football series here, we did 3 episodes on this, Brandon. Anything in closing you want to give to the group that we discussed over these last 3 episodes?
Well, there's a couple things that come to mind. So we talked offense 2 episodes ago. If you hadn't listened to that one, go back and listen to that. Things that you can do when the marketplace is in your favor. You need to put some points up on the board. We talked defense whenever things are going against you and you might have to get profitable with what you have. You can't really take as many risks and what have you. And then we just concluded with the specialists and special teams. And so, I think a few things that stand out. One, and I referenced this a moment ago, there's not a playbook for the current environment that we're in economically. So you have to be creative. What got you here is not going to be what keeps you here. So you got to look at what I'm bringing to the marketplace from a competitive advantage, from a value proposition, from a service and product standpoint. And I've got to bring something unique and different. If folks are going to spend, you've got to give them something different to spend on. You can't just keep doing the same thing in most cases and it works. So bring some creativity to the table. We kind of talked about that. You call a few different plays, you bring in a different type of offense, those kind of things. Secondly, you look at the importance in football and how much practice goes into that relative to how much is done in a game. And so how much practice is your team getting? And I'm talking about training. You know, as the great ones would say, you don't run a play until you get it right. You run it until you can't get it wrong. And that's true in business. You know, make sure that you're investing heavily back into your team whenever it comes to getting them up to speed quickly. If they're a new team member, how can I reduce that time and make them productive? You know, I've probably talked to more people in the last 3 months than I have in the past 3 years about sales training, because it's a different marketplace. You got to address it differently than you have in the past. So invest in that when it comes to your sales team. From an operational standpoint, we're in an environment to where you have to execute flawlessly because there's not opportunities in the pipeline to make up a mistake with. So systems and processes, make sure people are paying attention to the small things, the details, delivering a phenomenal experience, you know, top-notch product or service, whatever it may be there. You've got to execute at a very high level. And then when it comes to special teams, like we said earlier, you know, find the specialist. Who are the people that you can insert into your organization that can kind of fill in a gap, even on a temporary basis, get you up to speed quickly, and then your team can move the ball from there. You know, they can go out and execute based upon the plan that's been put in place. So those are just a few things that came to mind. Mike, any from you?
No, you've covered it. I think we've covered these goods. I really liked what we did here. I think you know, we in this economy, it's weird. The clientele that we get on a regular basis, it's, you know, you usually see some consistency, but this is some of the most inconsistent people I talk to in terms of like doing really well, doing bad, can't get a footing here, can't figure this out. And then someone calls and like, everything's great. Can't figure, you know, everything's fine. I don't know what everyone's talking about. I mean, it's wacky. So we're making sure we cover all of our bases here.
Yeah. I'll throw in one last quote here as we round out the football series. This comes from Barry Switzer. I know Cowboy fans, I guess, do they either love him or hate him, Mike? I don't know which one you fall on there, but Barry does have a Super Bowl championship with the Cowboys. So he has a quote that I really like. He says, "Life deals you a hand of cards. You decide whether you're going to play it out or fold." Well, the marketplace deals you a hand of cards as an entrepreneur. You know, it could be high interest rates. It could be high inflation. It could be low unemployment. I can't find people. You know, it could be a difficult marketplace to where revenue is going down. I mean, there's a lot of hands that the marketplace deals you. You decide whether you're going to play it out or whether you're going to fold.
I love it. All right, everyone. Well, we appreciate you joining us for another episode. That's Brandon Gray. I'm Mike Maxson, and we will see you next week.
Roll Tide.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.